Well, trying to see what we actually got from that World Economic Forum on Africa, which ended on Friday. Joining us to look at that is a business analyst, Pascal Odibo. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. You were there in Abuja, and all through the period, a lot of discussion concerning development and growth for the African continent. What was your high point?
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me. I won't start the discussion without chipping in a word and a voice to what is really happening in our country now, which is the loss of the disappearance, as the president will put it, of these girls in Chibok. And our hearts and minds are with them, and we are believing God that they will come back and come back safely. And the people that need to do something will need to and have to do it. We need to demand that these things are done. We are living in the 21st century. Investments have been made in everything possible to make our people safe. And then this is the time to place a demand on such investments. Now, having said that, sometime earlier this year, I was here and we spoke about the means, the acronym that Jim came out with. And the argument then was, what does this portend? And I remember clearly what I said was that, it is a searchlight. Anytime there's the G7, there's the G8, there's the G15, there's G20, that is the BRICS, that is the mains. And of course, I'm sure they're going to come up with something pretty soon because capital will always seek for a home. Because capital always seeks for a home, the economists around the world will always look for where it will bring out the best of investment and offer acceptance to it. And so what we have seen in the World Economic Forum is almost like a fulfillment of prophecy. And you're going to begin to see more of the interest of equity finding habitation in our climate. I think that was a major step. I think it was also an investment well done, in spite of the hiccups here and there in terms of what we heard about the security issues. But I think it's something that government and the private sector need to leverage on, so that the full benefit of such a gathering does not dissipate after the conference.
The conversations, there were over 40 sessions going on, sometimes back to back. But there were several challenges that were raised, and you mentioned one of them: security issues, inconsistency of government policy, and all of that. These are some of the challenges that were raised. Are you not bothered that these challenges might still be there, even as the forums ended, and then it's now time for implementation?
Now, the truth of the matter really is that we have a very, I'm careful to use the word, I don't want to use the word disorganized or but this is disjointed, system. And but the searchlight is going to, when Obasanjo came into power, there was pressure. When he started doing reforms, those reforms were not internal reforms. They were not reforms that he woke up one morning and said, "Listen, guys, let's reform." No, I'm sure everybody knows this. These are reforms that are done out of pressure by those you're dealing with outside. We say, "Listen, you know what? We're not going to deal with you until you've put this structure in place." So what I'm saying here is that this World Economic Forum is going to apply its own pressure on both government and the private sector to put their arts together. Because I give an instance. I need to give a couple of kudos to some of the ministers, like Minister for Trade and Investment. It was all over the place. By the way, what we attended was the side events. It was all over the place, trying to explain in Nigeria's, the industrial revolution. The Minister of Finance was trying to explain where we are in terms of the business of the economy and all that. But the point I'm making here is that the world is put the searchlight here. It's saying that they're coming. They will come. And it will put pressure on both the managers of our economy and the practitioners of the economy, whether the private sector, to be able to organize themselves in such a way that, and the call has to go out for them to organize themselves in such a way, in such a manner, that you take the full advantage, because people are beginning to put their money where the mouth is.
When you talk about people coming, I remember Premier Lee Kuchan, he was also here, and he spoke a whole lot about this. He says, they have 8 cardinal relationship they're having with the continent. He spoke about power generation, telecommunications, training for professionals, and meeting the pressing needs of Africa. This is never seen before happening, especially in Nigeria. China-Nigeria relationship. What do you think we're likely to get out of this, with all of these loads of points for the country?
The strategic intent of China most times to engage Africa has been clear over a couple of, it's a decade now. They are become very strategic in development of a lot of African countries. If you go to Kenya, if you go to South Africa, if you come to Nigeria, and especially in the area of infrastructure, don't forget they are building for the Nigerian government 4 airports. One at in Kano, Kano, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, and Enugu. And those things are things that are investing the money in. By the way, he did mention that he was going to up the credit line for African states from $10 to $30 billion. That clearly shows that this is, by the way, everybody is expecting the Chinese economy to begin to, taper down. But by what the Prime Minister said, they are bullish, engaging the African market. So I still go back to the fact that there is, a need for the public sector to know that there are policy enunciators, and those that write on those policies, as it were, with the private sector. By the way, the Kenyan government, I think, came with a team of businessmen that engaged Nigerian business. These are the kind of things we expect to begin to happen, just beyond the first tier. And what I mean by the first tier is just beyond the Dangotes and beyond the Zenith Bank of this world. There is another tier they need to engage, and that was why I was quite interested in the SME sideline event, which brought the ICT ministry and the Trade and Investment Ministry engaging, as it were, SMEs, what their role is as Africa begins to, as Africa rises, so to say. And of course, we handle the youth platform.
What do you think about the discussion from the youth? Young, vibrant Africans, hopeful, with great dreams and vision, aspirations. Some already what you want to call success stories from the continent.
I was so proud to watch and listen to the quality, and by the way, that's what I want to take away. Africa has I would call it a community of very trained professionals. You could see it, but the people you see on our own here, you could see that these are guys who are, if given the right mix of opportunity, they can take on anything. And that is why it is a challenge and a concern that, institutions of state must, people just think that they owe us is an honor for them to lead. I believe it is beginning to become a pressure. You're going to become a pressure on them to come out and say you are a minister of this or a commissioner for this, because we're going to ask you questions, look you in the eyes and ask you questions. And if you can't provide these questions, that is an honorable thing to do. Just resign and get out of the space. There are lots of qualified people that can get this job done. Just think about the investments that we made.
I must say that I felt